This weekend, so very closely following Christmas, of course, is the feast that we celebrate today. The Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and our holy families. You know, one of the first things that came to my mind as I was thinking about this weekend is the wisdom of the Catholic Church, the wisdom of the Church to install a feast such as this, to honor the family. What wisdom that is. You see, what am I saying here, young people? Had the church not done this, we may forget. We may forget the beauty, the greatness of the Holy Family, of our families. As I look out and see families, it warms one's heart. It always does, you and me, to see families at Christmas. And for the church to recognize it is a wonderful thing. That's why we, in part, stay with the church. Stay with the church. The church gets it. We don't often, but the church does. What shall we say then about the family? The nuclear family, I think they called it, not so many years ago. That's us. It's kind of a new family, isn't it? From families that existed 100 or 200 years ago. Statistics reveal to us, friends, that a sea change has occurred in the West, in our families. You know, in recent past, not really that many years ago, the family was the place where people learned an occupation, received medical attention, were taught the faith, received care in old age. This family provided those things. Today, these functions have been largely replaced by schools or religious ed or nursing homes, hospitals. That's not necessarily in and of itself bad, but it is a change. And it has affected us, has it not? The family, for sure, in one regard, is very much less cohesive today. So those of us here that, our children, I know in my own family now, when years ago everybody kind of stayed in Appleton, but that's not the case anymore, is it? People don't stay in Appleton anymore, and Hortonville and Greenville. Our children go to all sorts of places. Minneapolis, to pick on somebody. I don't know why you'd want to go there, but God bless you. Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. Families are very much less cohesive. Some families lose touch with each other, don't they? Sure they do. Everybody knows that. They lose touch. And I'm sure that Father could tell you stories, many of them, of families that are just kind of lost. And you see Grandma and Grandpa kind of alone. And the children don't visit them because of this loss of cohesiveness. So a sea change has occurred, not only in families in the West, but even in particular countries. You can point it out. Countries that it really kind of should frighten us. Yesterday I was reading a magazine, imagine that, but I was reading this on the internet, of course, because I'm with it now. You all know that about me. And the article had to do with the author about the country of Ireland. Everybody knows Ireland, right? The beautiful Ireland. The Ireland of St. Patrick. The Ireland that's Catholic to its very core. The Ireland that many immigrants left and priests left and came to Appleton, came all around here. Irish priests, they're all over the place. For Ireland was a Catholic country. Perhaps the Catholic country, I don't know that, but certainly one of them. And he wrote in this article, the Ireland that you read about, the Catholic Ireland, is in full retreat before society. And Ireland's families are in retreat before the onslaught of Western morality, of Western thinking. Can you imagine that? Ireland. The faith is dying, he said. He may be wrong. I hope he is, but I'm just telling you what he wrote. This professor, this guy that kind of does study of Ireland, says that's what's happened to Ireland. It has fallen. You know, Ireland in the 19th and 20th centuries, you know this, produced large Catholic families and had many vocations. But now it has rejected much of its Catholic heritage and adopted different norms, the norms of the West. It has suffered a great blow, and its families have suffered a great blow. Does that happen to us? Does that happen to our families in America? Is it happening? I don't know. And I don't want to be, I'm always the guy saying, I'm kind of negative there, Deacon. I get that. But facts are facts, friends. Facts are facts. The American family is suffering. We all know that. It's in my family, in the larger family. And you have to ask yourself, well, why did this happen? How do we reverse these trends? What shall we do to reverse this? We're just people here at St. Mary's, but we have families, and your children are with you. I see them. And that's so beautiful, and it's wonderful. And I have children too, and grandchildren. What shall I do to buck the trend against family? What shall we do? Well, that's why the church, I think, kind of instituted this great feast of the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Those three, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, stood for the principles that contribute to strong family life. And one could talk a long time about those principles that they stood for. But to me, they're pretty simple. Primarily, these three people were people of sacrifice, were they not? Here he is. Here's your Jesus. Here he is to sacrifice, not only for Mary and Joseph, but for you and me as well. It just doesn't get much better than Jesus Christ. It certainly doesn't. And he is the model. He ought to be the model for fathers and mothers. He's the model of sacrifice. I think back on my own life, my own married life. I've been married a long time, you know that. I've said this before. I was a poor father, I think, for many years. I don't know what troubled me, but something did. And I'm going to have to account to that to God. But thanks be to God, I think I woke up a little bit and began to recognize that my role was primarily a role of sacrifice, of commitment, of obligation to others, not to myself, which I'm still pretty good at. Anybody that knows me, I'm still a weak person. But you want to, at least in me now, with the church, with the philosophy of Christ, is the sense that we need to sacrifice for one another. That's the core, that's the root of family. And when you see a healthy family, you probably see that primarily. These are people that go out of their way for the love of the other. Mary said yes to God. I will sacrifice my own life to say yes to God. We today, friends, need to say yes again to God at the expense of America, 3-4 days ago, America spent $32 billion in one day. Did you see that? No, nobody saw that. Well, did you see it, Father? All right, well, thanks a lot. So, Father, let's you and I go out and talk here a second. Now, you saw it, right? Why did I say that? Because America there's nothing wrong with commerce. That's not my point. But we're engaged in commerce. That we do very well. Thanks be to God. And it has built a strong America. I get that. But what about sacrifice? What about commitment? What about love itself, this misused word, love? As Father says often, I hear him say it at weddings, love and sacrifice and commitment. These are choices that we make. They're not feelings. Love's not just a feeling. It's an actual choice. I choose to sacrifice. I choose it. And Joseph, he is this great man. He is the model of all fathers. He is the model. He did what had to be done without notoriety. We know very little about him. Didn't say much. He's not recorded much. But when you look and peek through the lines of Joseph, here's a pretty powerful guy. He really is. And his power is in what? Sacrifice. Commitment. I'm committed to Mary. I'm going to stay with her. I'm going to do what it takes. That's Joseph. That's what he did. For us, then, it's going to take an effort, friends, I think, for all of us to fight the many forces, I think, that are arrayed against family life. The forces of death itself, the forces of birth control and abortion, those forces that are arrayed against family life that have really staggered us. And for most of us, myself included, I'm not sure I realize the effects of it all yet. We are going to have to stand strong, and it will take commitment, and it will take sacrifice, and it will take true love to overcome what has now become part and parcel, I think, of Western culture. For me to look at you and your families, this is how it'll be overcome. When these families, your families, are strong, when my family is strong or stronger, then we're doing our job. When your children and grandchildren know, children, that mom and dad have sacrificed for you, and they go out of their way for you at the expense of their own pleasures, that's a beautiful thing. Recognize that. When husbands and wives sacrifice for each other, that's the beauty of marriage. It is. It just is. It's the very foundation of marriage. So it will take effort, and it's going to take a renewal on our part because we're not getting a lot of help from technology out there. We're just not. So we're going to kind of have to do that. The man that wrote this article about Ireland, sadly, he ended it with, he's saying to us, our mission then is, he says, is to stand fast. Hold up your head. Stand fast. Be proud of your family. Be proud of who you are. Be proud that we're Catholics. Stand fast. And hold on, he says, no matter what. Which is a hard thing to do, by the way, friends, because the evil one kind of puts that in our head to give up, to think that it's over. But it's not. It's not over. It's just begun. And he goes on to say, we may seem out of step right now with the world. And many would say that the world will not look upon us our likes again, that the world won, but it has not won. You're proof of that. This morning, we're proof of it. We can change this. one person, one family, one son or daughter, one grandma and grandpa at a time. They are wrong. The world is wrong. For believe me, this man writes, the world will whimper for the likes of us in the fullness of God's time. And so we pray this morning, O Lord, as you've come in Christmas as a child, come again to strengthen our families, and we pray for that this morning. God bless the Holy Family. Please, God.